Have you ever observed something happening and you quickly made a decision and you took some action only to find out later that you were wrong and some relationships suffered in the process? I'm going to show you why that happens in this video and how to avoid it. So what's happening here is called the ladder of inference. It was a model developed by Chris Argyris many years ago. It served me well over the years because it helps to explain to me how my brain works and how I can better manage it. So here's the way the ladder of inference works. At the very bottom of the ladder is what we call observable data. Whenever something happens, at the moment it arises, as long as it's outside of our operating system, it's just observable data. It can be recorded on a videotape. It can be converted into binary code of ones and zeros. That's all it is, just data. As soon as it enters into our operating system through our senses, it goes through a pretty dramatic change. It is no longer just data because we quickly select certain data from it, because our brains can't handle all the data from that. Our brains are wired for efficiency, and our brains take shortcuts a lot. So we select certain data from the situation, and that selection depends a lot on our culture, maybe our psychological baggage that we're bringing to the situation. As soon as we select that data, we add meaning. Again, based on our culture or our psychology, what we've observed, we give it meaning. So let's stop right here and go back to the bottom. Observable data. We're sitting in a meeting. Susie walks in late. She sits down, takes out her cell phone, and starts looking at it and tapping on the keys. From that situation, you select the data that Susie arrived late and is not paying attention to the speaker and is on her cell phone. You immediately add meaning to that because those actions that Susie's taking has meaning for you. It means that Susie's not interested. Or you may say it means that Susie is rude and disrespectful. The next thing that happens is, after you've added your meaning to the situation, you make some assumptions about Susie. I assume that Susie's not interested. I assume that Susie's not engaged. And then I draw conclusions from those assumptions. So I'm going to conclude that Susie is a very rude and disrespectful person. She's not engaged at work, and she doesn't have the common courtesy to show respect for the speaker who is running our meeting. And then those conclusions harden into beliefs. And we start to develop a belief system about Susie. And those beliefs lead us to take certain actions. Some of those actions may be positive. To sit down and have a conversation with Susie about her behavior, but more than likely, those actions are not always positive. We may decide Susie needs to be off the team. We may decide that Susie needs to be written up. She needs to be reprimanded. Now that's what's called running up the ladder really fast. And one of the insidious things about this, when we draw those conclusions and adopt beliefs, those beliefs then affect the data that we will choose in similar situations. So as we adopt our beliefs about Susie and her behavior, we will tend to look for that behavior in future situations, and that becomes the data that we will choose to confirm that our belief about Susie was right. So you might want to just call this jumping to conclusions, and it certainly is. We run up the ladder all the time. So how can this help us? Well, one of the ways it can help us is just by being more aware of it. By being more aware when we're running up the ladder too fast. That awareness should cause us to slow down a little bit and get the facts and try to be more objective. Another way we can use it is to be a better listener, because the more we listen, the more objective we can be and the more facts we can accumulate. And finally, by making a conscious effort to pull ourselves above the line, we can maintain a mental attitude of openness, of curiosity, and a commitment to learning. And I'll show you what that means right now with this short 3-minute video.
Brought to you by the Conscious Leadership Group. Find them on the web at www.conscious.is. Animation by Graham Franks, www.grahamfranks.com. One question that conscious leaders ask themselves over and over is, where am I? To support leaders in locating themselves as they ask the question, where am I, we offer this tool, a line. A simple black line. At any moment, all leaders and all people are either above the line or below the line. Our location describes how we're being with what is occurring in our life right now. If we're above the line, we are open, curious, and committed to learning. If we are below the line, we are closed, defensive, and committed to being right. Stop right now and simply ask yourself, where am I? In this now moment, am I above the line or below the line? Typically, when people are below the line, they believe certain things about the world. For example, they believe there is not enough. It could be that there's not enough money, or time, or space, or energy, or love. People below the line also believe that their story about the situation is right. People below the line also believe that there is a threat out there. Something or someone is threatening their desire for approval, control, or security. And people below the line see the situation as serious. The deeper below the line they are, the more serious things look. People below the line tend to behave certain ways as well. They tend to cling to an opinion, find fault and blame, gossip, explain, rationalize and justify, get overwhelmed, and avoid conflict or pursue conflict for the sake of winning. When people are above the line, they believe that learning and growing are more important than being right. They believe that all people and circumstances are their allies, here for their growth. They believe that from a distance, almost everything is funny. People above the line live in curiosity, listen deeply, speak unarguably, question all their beliefs, and live a life of play. Now, knowing what you know about being above or below the line, where are you? One thing to know as you consider this question. We are hardwired to go below the line. Literally, our brain is programmed to perceive threat, and when it does, a chemical cocktail courses through our veins, and we go below the line. This reaction was designed to help us survive in the presence of a real threat to our physical survival. An issue for modern-day leaders is that often our brains can't tell the difference between a threat to our physical survival and a threat to our ego or identity. We react and get defensive when we experience a threat to our ego. So in many ways, being below the line is natural and normal. But when we are below the line, we're not in a state, literally brain state, of high creativity, collaboration, innovation, and relational connection. We're simply trying to survive. Leaders today can't thrive if they're in survival mode. So the first activity of conscious leadership is location, location, location. In this now moment, where am I? Telling ourselves and others the truth about our current location begins the great conversation.
So the next time you find yourself running up the ladder too quickly and jumping to conclusions, especially about other people, work on shifting above the line. Be more open. When we're more open, we tend to resist the impulse to select the data that we choose to confirm that we're right. Be more curious. Be more curious about what's going on inside of you and more curious about what's going on with the other person. And then be committed to learning, to look at every situation that happens to us, whether it's good or bad, as our ally, our teacher. What can I learn from this? And when we do this, we're happier and we're more in control of ourselves. So I hope this has been helpful. I'll see you the next time.